Hello and welcome again to the channel. We're going to be looking at another Creole word from the tiny island of St. Lucia, and that word is called SouSou. So here we're looking at a online article from the Insider, and as you can see, the headline states, the African saving practice known as ASU or SouSou is popular throughout the diaspora and helps communities build and share wealth.
So, what is an ASU or a SouSou and how does it work? A SOU is a rotation of credit and savings among a defined group of people. So you have a set group of people, be it 10, be it 20, and they have an agreement that dictates the length of time it will last. It may last a month, it may last a week, and then they also decide how much everybody would contribute. So it could be everybody contributes at the end of the month, or everybody contributes at the end of the week, or everybody contributes every 2 weeks. And how much? It could be $100, $20, $1,000, but everybody contributes in the group. So they decide on the regularity of the contribution and how much, and the order of the disbursement. So who's going to get the first set of money and who's going to get the last set of money. So each contribution is a hand and each disbursement is a draw. So when you contribute, you give a hand, a helping hand, and when you receive, you make a draw. You got a draw. So, for example, a group of 10 people may come together and decide to start a SouSou or ASU. They decide to throw hands of $100 every week for 10-week period. By the end of the 10 week, everyone will collect $1,000. And one's contribution of 10 $100 times. So everybody contributes 10 times of $100, and then when it is your turn, you receive $1,000. Everybody else gives $100, so the first person to draw receives $1,000, and the last person will give their $100 9 times before they draw. On the 10th time, they will get $1,000. They themselves will also put in their $100. So this is how the SouSou works. So it is a great way for people to get a lump sum of money to make a purchase, and it's also a way of saving, because you're putting away that $100 because somebody else is using it, but at the time you're forced to save, you're forced to give away that $100, but in reality you're saving it because you will receive it. So for somebody may say that they want to be at the end because they have an intention of purchasing in 10 weeks time. So yes, we are now looking at the technological footprint of the SouSou or the tontine.
Now, CNN World on Marketplace Africa has this wonderful article, and the title is Bringing an Ancient African Saving System into the Digital Age. It is about a new startup, and it's called Matontine. So in Senegal, there's this gentleman, and now there are practical alternatives in the region where more than half of the adult population does not use formal monetary systems. And this new startup called Matontine is trying to take the saving circle into the digital age. So this article is discussing the digitization of the tontine or the SouSou. So he's created Mertontine, a system where technology meets tradition, paving a way for formal banking solutions. So mobile phones and mobile money replace the pots and designated members who collect the contribution. So instead of it being done hand to hand, it is now, or cash, it is now being done over mobile technology, mobile phones, etc. The next article we're going to look at comes from Bloomberg.
It's Wemimbo Abbey is using credit reporting to bridge the racial wealth gap. So this is on Bloomberg, and it goes on to explain is bringing the SouSou in a technological age, or using technology to redefine SouSou and to help people establish credit through credit reporting. So this is very, very interesting.
Well, this is a gentleman, Abby, and he is started a fintech based on this hundred of year old monetary system originally established by the Yoruba out of Nigeria.
He now has become a co-founder and CEO of a fintech company.
He's created a fintech or financial technology company which uses his traditional knowledge of SouSou to form a company which is also helping immigrants and helping low and middle income people, Americans, especially African Americans and Black Americans in the United States of America, establish their credit scores. This, this gentleman has taken a SouSou or SouSou and brought it into the digitized world or the digital world.
So financial technology right now is huge, right? Just think digital currency. Just think in Africa, using your phones to do purchases or to transfer money, using phone cards for moving money around. Compare that to how you have to use money transfers through banking and pay huge sums of money to transfer your money from the North American or from Europe to send to the developing world or the emerging economies into the Caribbean or into Africa. So if you using the SWIFT system or the banking system to send money, you are practically paying a huge sum of your money to send money across the wire. You know what I mean? But now you have this idea of digital technology, digital currency. And digital currency is taking out the middleman or that cost. So, this is one thing that it is doing. But just when you start to think of financial technology, the advancements that are going on with the ability of digital currencies to be able to cross borders and be moved without the SWIFT system or the exchange rate taking a cut of your money. Not only the exchange rate takes probably eats into your money when they convert it, also the transferring of that money has a cost, so you're getting double hit. So fintech is now changing that. So back to the article on Bloomberg, which is talking about this gentleman named Wemimo Abbey, who decided to have a fintech technology, or he created this financial technology company around the idea of tontines or SouSou, and how it is helping American people with their credit scores, because it is also being used with credit report.
The company reports on-time rent payments to the three national credit bureaus, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion.
So basically what it says is that, so not only do those people get the opportunity to contribute to a SouSou or a tontine, there is a reporting of how regular and on time that they're paying, and this is used to bolster or track their credit score. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? A traditional Yoruba monetary system is now being transferred into the digital age of technology, and it is helping newcomers and immigrants who are used to those SouSou or those type of savings and banking or financial systems to get credit scores, to get into the economic system in North America and Europe, because these systems are built on credit scores. If you want to buy a car, if you want to rent an apartment or home, or even buy a home, it will depend on your credit scores. And some people, you need to establish, everybody needs to establish a credit score. So when you're a newcomer, you do not have a credit score yet. So then you have to start to what's called build your credit score. And it may be difficult because some people don't have a job and a bank account, and they don't have a credit card, which in itself could be a pitfall. When you get the credit card, many people have found themselves in holes by just one idea was they're going to get the credit card, spend and pay it, and develop a and create a credit score or a credit history, and then they find themselves so much in debt. So this tontine is different because it is a system where you're actually forced to save, and then you get your money at an interval that is agreed upon, and so you're saving, and it is also now being used based on your regularity of payment to that tontine that you're involved in. It's being tracked, and that helps to bolster your credit score. So kudos to Wemimo Abe, who's doing that in the United States. It says in January 22, he raised $140 million in a series of B round led by SoftBank Vision Fund 2, making it one of the small number of black-owned unicorn companies in the United States. Just 4 years after its funding, today the startup reaches more than 3.5 million rental units across 50 states. So quite interesting. First we look at the Senegal company, and then we looked at this gentleman Wemimo Abe, or Abe, in the United States, and he's making waves, bringing this traditional type of monetary system and bringing it into the digital age with a digital footprint, and helping also immigrants, a segment of society which may face barriers to entry financial barriers when it comes to accessing credit and having credit scores. Yes, we looked at this idea of taking fintech into taking the SouSou or the tontine into the digital age. We looked at the idea of the Senegal gentleman who's doing something called Matontine, which is digitizing the SouSou, or they are called tontine in many places. And then we looked at a gentleman named Wemimo Abe, who's doing that in North America. This ancient technique or old technique used for hundreds of years is now being used and breaking into the modern age of financial technologies, a new look and a new outlook on it. Here we are. We looked at this idea.
So we looked at this idea of SouSou. So like I said, but I like to say like I said. But the beginning of this video, we looked at a Creole word, or what I thought was a Creole word, which is found in the culture and traditions of St. Lucia, something called SouSou. Now, SouSou is a peer-to-peer saving scheme or saving system where a group of people each contribute the same amount of money at a set interval, and then each person draws that money at when their turn comes up. So if it's 10 people and they do it at 1 week interval, the last person will draw on the 10th week the total amount of the contributions. So the first person will draw on the first day all the on the first week, and then the last person and the first person will continue to contribute that amount until the last person withdraws the same amount of the total 10 contributions on the 10th week. And this was called, or is called, SouSou. And interestingly enough, it's called SouSou in Ghana. And it has offshoots of SouSou in the Bahamas, and from Senegal, Tontine, Idir in Ethiopia. But the concept is the same. So what I found interesting is that I looked at the phonetic sounding susu, and that it still exists in where it originated from, out of Africa, and there are places on the continent which still calls it susu or asusu or so. It although usually in Creole most of the language is a verbally learned language. It wasn't actually written until recently. It is quite refreshing to see that the word susu still exists in some form from its origin out of the continent of Africa. So this idea of the name, how it is called, the system, how it is used also sometimes for emergencies. In St. Lucia, there is something called a society, which is for contributions are made for an emergency when people pass away and then they need funding for funeral rites and funeral services, and what's called a wake, where people come in and come and pay their respects, and coffees and drinks and things are offered. And so um, that money goes towards that. And the societies where people contribute to that monthly. So when that unfortunate day comes, they have that emergency fund available. So somewhat like an insurance scheme. So there we looked at that, and then we also moved on to the idea of how this is now becoming digitized. We looked at in Senegal, where there's a gentleman who set up a company using phones. So traditionally it is cash money handed out, collected, and dispersed. But now you can have the contributions made through digital transfer over phones. So financial technology, or fintech, and the footprint of fintech in the modern era that we're living in, and that company is called Matontine in Senegal. And also we looked at in the United States of America, Abibi or Abe, reported on Bloomberg. This gentleman started a fintech company where he's using this traditional knowledge, which came out of the Yoruba people tradition. It is said to have originated out of the Yoruba people, and he's setting up a fintech company. And his fintech company is helping low-income people who are finding it difficult to set up or have credit scores or credit history. And usually these are the recent immigrants who have not had time to establish themselves using credit in the country that they have landed in. And so this company is using the SouSou or the tontine or the contributions of its members to track their contributions, to see how regular they contribute and if they're contributing on time. So this is a way to create a credit score for them, and track the how would you say, and create the credit score and track it, because that way the regularity of payment, the on-time payment is basically what your credit score is derived from. So you're using this ancient or old tradition which came out of Africa, modernizing it into the financial technology of the digital age, and it is now existing. So we looked at those two dichotomies, or two sides of the same coin, out in Senegal in Africa, out in United States of America, where fintech is now happening. Important to note that a lot of people in the in North America and in Europe may not know that in Africa, financial technology, transactions, digital transactions of money over phones bigger than actual transactions from traditional banking systems. Many people in Africa or on the continent of Africa, because Africa is not one country, many people in Africa do not have formal bank accounts. Many people in Africa do their transactions with phone payments, where these are considered novel or advanced. People have been using or been establishing payments and transfer of money over phones on the continent of Africa. It's becoming entrenched, and it is a big part. Financial technology is fintech is very big on the continent of Africa as compared to traditional banking in Europe and North America. And a lot of people don't know that. So this new digital wave that is happening with digital currencies, it's really have a foundation and a base in on the African continent already. So it bodes well. This is what we do. We take something grounded in local knowledge from the culture and we expand outwards to see its origins. And we go down that rabbit hole. And sometimes we find amazing things to talk about. Most times we find amazing things to talk about. And so we had SouSou today. If you like the content, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. And we will see you around for the next one.